All right, hello everybody, how you doing? Good. Thanks for coming out this beautiful night for our Junior Information Night, which is a kickoff to the college search and application process for the class of 2024. Okay. Was anybody here last week for the sophomore night? Just out of curiosity. Double, God bless you. So sophomore night was 83 minutes. Tonight we're going to do it in under 60. Mostly because it's just me, right? We don't have an army of people coming up here to speak tonight. But this is what you can expect this evening. So first we're going to outline a timeline between now and when you ultimately submit your applications, because believe it or not, in less than 10 months you will have submitted your college applications. Okay, so not a year from now, but by November 1st of next year, you will have submitted your college applications. That's going to be the goal for everybody in this room. We'll talk about the actual search process, the admissions process a little bit, how we, Westmore Central, are doing at various schools throughout this process. And we'll talk a little bit about standardized testing, although we still are not real sure what they're going to do for this class just yet, and I'll get to that in a second. So right now, we're in December/January of our junior year. We should have made an appointment for a junior conference. Has everybody done that? Good. If you haven't, when you leave here, do so. Shoot your counselor an email, or give them a call or shoot them an email tomorrow. But they sent out a link to everybody so you can go ahead and you can book those conferences. We're going to talk a little bit about SAT and ACT. When is the most appropriate time for you to take them, if you should take them. February through June, we're going to talk about the college visits. Any spring athletes in here? Baseball, softball, lacrosse. Be proud, put the hands up, yeah. All right, so you guys are going to have a hard time visiting colleges over spring break, right? Because where's baseball going? Where? Baseball's going like North Carolina or South Carolina or something. Softball's going somewhere. Everybody's going everywhere. So you won't have the opportunity to go and visit colleges during spring break, so you really want to take advantage of President's Day weekend coming up in February, and maybe a couple long weekends here or there between now and then. And we'll touch briefly about AP and IB testing. By the time the summer rolls around, you really should start to begin to formulate the list of schools that you want to apply to. August 1st is the date in which the common application rolls over for your graduating class, which means on August 1st you could log in to the common application, create your account, and actually start completing college applications right there. They will post the essays for the common application for this graduating class in about a month or so. All right, we'll actually be able to see the essays. They very rarely change, so you can probably look right now. Every once in a while, there's a little tweak. There's going to be about 5 or 6 questions that you can answer for your long essay. August through October is really the time when we're starting to finalize our list, finalize those applications, and again, by November 1st of next year, you want to have hit submit on your top choice schools. October 1st, did anybody go to financial aid night this year? Good, good. You two are my favorite. We have financial aid night every single year, every September. So if you didn't get to it this year, come on out next year. Ed Zamora of Principia Prep will walk you through the entire financial aid process. Questions about the timeline? All right. So PSAT, students, we get emails yesterday and today saying your PSAT scores are ready. Yes? I'm seeing a lot of nods. Fantastic. If there are any shakes out there, go home, check your email that you put on the PSAT answer sheet. Your scores are there waiting for you. When you meet with your counselors in your junior conference, they will have the scores available to them as well. They'll go through that score report with you, show you the different things that you can learn from it, how to get some prep, areas of strength, areas of weakness. So a lot of information in those PSAT score reports. So we took that in October. Scores are now available online for you to view. ACT and SAT. I'll get back to that. AP signups are done. So if you are in an AP class and you wanted to take an AP test in May, those signups should have already happened. Same for our IB testing as well. Okay. SAT and ACT. So I'm sure everybody in here is every week watching the interviews I push out via email, yes? I got one. He's the one. All right. So our counselors, we've actually done, we're already done, I think we've done about 40 interviews. I release one a week to you guys. I figured if I released all 40, there's no chance you'd watch them. But if I release one at a time, maybe you'll start to click on those a little bit. We try to keep it to about 20 minutes. Some are a little long, some are a little less. And we ask every single one the question about SATs and ACTs. Some of them are still going to remain SAT, ACT optional, test optional. Others are going to require it. The best advice that I can give you is that when you do finalize that list of schools that you're looking at, okay, we're going to contact those admissions officers, we're going to get on their websites, we're going to go on the tours, we're going to ask that question, we're going to get it straight from their mouths what their policy is going to be for the class of 2024. I wish I could tell you there's one throughout the country, but it just doesn't exist that way. When you look at the PSAT scores with your counselor, they're going to start talking about which test is right for you, the PSAT or the pre-ACT. Now, last year as sophomores, we take the pre-ACT, right? Many of us did. And so we have that score that we can look at, and we have the PSAT score that we can look at. That will estimate how we would do on an ACT and how we would do on an SAT. This is called a concordance chart, right? Because in this country, we like to complicate things as much as possible. We have two different types of tests that score completely differently. SAT on a scale of 1600 and an ACT on a scale of 36. Why not? So what we'll do is we'll look at that PSAT score and we'll say, okay, well, I got about let's pick a round number, 1110 on a PSAT. 1110 on a PSAT is equal to a 22 on an ACT. So if we're looking at both the PSAT results and the pre-ACT results, and we see 1110 on a PSAT, but we see a 16 on the pre-ACT, well, which test should we take? SAT. This side of the room is with it. All right? Now, I got a PSAT score of 1110, but I got a pre-ACT of 28. Which one are we taking? Guys, we got to wake up. You got to wake up, right? ACT. You're going to take the ACT. So, but often is the case, you're going to find that the scores are about the same. You may find that there's really not much difference, in which case it's just a matter of comfort. Get online, look at some sample tests, try some sample questions, see which ones you feel more comfortable with. That's what you roll with, okay? I think it's a good idea to get a test under your belt, okay, so that you have that score. Should a college need it, you do not need to send it to colleges or test optional, okay? They're not going to go invade College Board's database to look. All right, you have to send it if you want them to consider it. So it's really up to you. Prior to the pandemic, there was a site called fairtest.org. The site still exists because we were seeing a movement towards test-optional colleges and universities. And that was growing and growing and growing. And this site would keep track of that for us, right? So we could get an idea. If I'm not a great test taker, I just don't want to deal with it, I could look at fairtest.org and I could see which schools are test optional. Again, pandemic threw everything for a loop. Almost every college and university in the country became test optional. Now some are swaying back, but this is a good resource for you to still look at to get an idea of what colleges and universities are test optional. But again, when in doubt, call the admissions office. Anything about, I just spoke about timeline, testing, Anything like that? Any questions? Okay. None of the adults. To the children in the room. What movie is this? We got one. We got one. Animal House. Animal House. It's rated R. You can't watch it yet. But let's talk about college admissions. I got to get a new clicker. If anybody's looking for a Christmas gift for me, new clicker's the way to go. So, you know, I always get asked this question: what are colleges and universities looking for? National Association of College Admissions Counseling, up until the pandemic, every year released a state of college admissions report. We haven't gotten one post-pandemic. I think they're still trying to figure out what to do. But here's what I know. For 20 plus years before the pandemic, the number one thing they were looking at was the grades in your courses. It's the number one thing they were looking at. Number two, grades in your college prep courses. So take out the cookings, take out the robotics, right? Math, English, history, science, the core courses. Strength of curriculum. These are always going to be the top three, folks. This is always going to be the way it is. It's never going to change. These are the top three things. Are you taking the most difficult course load that you can handle? Right? For some, it's all IB, AP, honors. Fine, great, good for you. For others, it's all advanced. Fine, great, good for you. Whatever it is, as long as you are taking the most challenging curriculum that you can handle, and you're performing well, that's what they want to see. Okay? After that, test scores. Again, we can kind of cross that off the list to a degree, depending on where we're applying, and we see what comes in right after that. Your essay, right? Your ability to put into the written language, not the stuff that you text and snap, right? But actual written language, ideas, thoughts, imagine that. Okay, that's what they're looking at. Next, this is this new thing that's kind of come about the last 7-8 years, demonstrated interest. With the advent of the Common Application, it has become increasingly easier for students to apply to as many colleges as they want to. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of colleges now accept the Common Application, which means I can fill out one application and I can apply to 500 schools. I don't know if I want to pay for 500 application fees, that's up to you, right? But it's become increasingly easier to send out as many applications as they want. So colleges are getting all these apps from kids who never set foot on campus, never took a tour, never met with an admissions officer, never communicated, never stopped at a college fair and introduced themselves. So colleges started to track this idea of demonstrated interest. Right? Is this student really interested in this school? I'm going to show you a video clip in a little bit where they talk to a degree about that. You know, what are they looking for when they're getting to those final applicants, those borderline applicants? Demonstrated interest, the fact that I went to the college, I did a tour, I met with an admissions rep, I followed up with an email, I thanked them. Versus someone who never went. If we're equal everywhere else, which one are they going to take? The one who actually showed some interest in the school. The one that college believes will accept the acceptance. We have our recommendations. Don't worry about class rank. We don't release it. Extracurricular activities. They're not looking for a laundry list, folks. They don't want to see 100 things. Maybe 2, 3 things that we're heavily involved in, that we're passionate about, that we're working consistently towards, that we can write about, that we can speak to in an interview. Even better, maybe we've risen up to a leadership position in that group or activity, that organization, right? How can you make yourself stand out? Really what they're looking at. Okay, so, I should have said this to you before. Everything, I'm recording this, so that recording will be online. This will be posted online. I'll email out to everybody. I have 3 samples, Amherst, Grinnell, Brandeis, of what they actually do in the admissions office when it comes down to deciding who gets in and who doesn't. I'm not going to show all 3, I'm going to show the shortest one to you right now for time, which is Amherst.
All right, we're on page 61. She's got 5s in 4 AP.
Is this loud enough? Great.
We divide our applicants circa 8,000 candidates into 30-plus geographic regions and pair 2 readers to each region.
With Caitlin, her being an inside-the-box kind of gal.
Inside the box.
Inside the box. How many would like to admit? Wait, prior to the conversations we have here as a committee, the group has been significantly reduced to a really, really accomplished group.
He's a top tester. He's got all A's.
4 varsity sports.
The first chair trumpet in the orchestra.
You ready for this? 6.4 GPA on a 4 scale.
Did he get all those 5s without AP courses?
Yeah.
Oof, but we can't take them all, and so about 1,000 candidates are brought to be heard by the whole committee.
The process of making those decisions is agonizing.
I'm questioning the edge here,
Yeah.
however, in all her excellence. How many would like to admit? Okay, she goes to the wait list.
We're fully aware of the fact that the process is, I don't want to say flawed, but is making minute distinctions among extraordinarily talented kids. There are times, honestly, where I'm not sure why I put my hand up or failed to put my hand up. I'm kind of going with my gut here.
The night before her AP chemistry exam, she learned her father had an affair with a 23-year-old prostitute.
How many would like to admit? One of them is a business exec VP with a master's, both went to Harvard. He's got 3 SIBs at Harvard in classes 09, 01, and 15.
His family financial situation took a huge hit, and they lost their family store and all other assets.
When a student is particularly poor and are achieving an exceptionally high level, that would be a plus factor for that student.
Dad's alcoholism consuming the family. This is a quote from one of his essays. The alcohol-consuming poor Muslim family down the street with whom no sane member of society would want to interact.
How many would like to admit?
I am cognizant of some lives being changed, literally. On the other hand, yeah, I do feel badly. The months of February and March are simply no fun.
Okay, I don't want to see 100 essays about affairs or submitting applications. Don't want to see it. But a couple things to know from there, right? Inside the box, yikes. You know, hopefully that would have gotten flagged by an English teacher or counselor or somebody as we're reading essays and helping the students. All right, I'm just going to speak real loud. How about the one admissions rep saying, not sure why I put my hand up? Everybody else like, man, are you kidding me? How many hours did I pour over this essay, this application, and it comes down to a gut feeling? And unfortunately, that's the reality of it. As the Washington Journal, New York Times, I apologize, I don't have it with me, a few years ago, released an article that on average, admissions reps are spending about 8 minutes per application. Right? Which if you think about the math, the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of applications they have to read, that makes some sense, right? I mean, how long can they really spend on it? That's why your essay is so important. And look, you don't need to have the story about family tragedy, right? It doesn't all need to be, doom and gloom. Everybody in here has a story, right? Everybody in here has something that makes you unique, that makes you special. It's just a matter of figuring out a way to put that into writing so that they can get a better picture of who you are, other than just what your GPA says on your transcript and your test score if they are accepting test scores. Okay? So the essay doesn't have to be this grand thing. Make it about you. It is about you. And one of the essay prompts is somebody that made a difference in your life. Look, I can understand the reasoning to wanting to write about that, but if your essay is solely about that person, well, they got a great idea of what that person's like. They still don't know what you're all about. Make sense? So, sometimes I try to steer students away from that one, but if you are going to pick that one, make sure it gets back to you and why you are the way you are, who you are. Critically important. Questions about this? Okay. So, some statistics. Yes?
I'm sorry.
No.
What do they mean when they said the student is in the box? What does that mean?
So that was the student's actual quote from the essay. So the student wrote, I'm an inside the box thinker. So I think the moral of that is try to avoid cliches and bad ones like that. If at all possible. So just some statistics you can see each year we're sending about 93 to 95% onto a college from our graduating classes. Slight decline in four-year schools over the past couple of years. We could maybe chalk that up to the pandemic and some financials. Still trying to sift all that out when it's all said and done. This is something I want to point out to you. So, class of 2020, we had 328 graduates versus, 300 graduates last year. So, even though we had 28 less students, we only had about 4 less total applications. Okay? Why is that? Well, again, it's gotten easier to apply to colleges, and now a lot of colleges are test optional. So hell, I could apply to a school that I knew I never had a shot at before because my test scores were never going to get me there. But maybe now they just look at me and my grades and my essay and my interview. So we're seeing more and more students kind of put a couple more colleges in there. And so the average app went from 5.1 to 5.8 applications per student. But you can see as that goes up, so too the percentage. This percentage goes down of acceptances. Make sense? Only makes sense. If you put more out there, that number is going to start to decrease. So I'm going to get into this most competitive, highly competitive colleges, but I just wanted to most competitive your IBs, your MITs, your Hopkins, your Dukes, your NYUs, the schools I would never get into. And you look at the number of applicants, about the same. 101 applicants last year accepted. This is what I want to point out. You can see what the weighted GPA is, right? Just over a 5. And the weighted GPA takes into account the level of class. So, for example, an A plus in an AP, IB, or honors class is a 6.02. And A plus in advanced class is 4.8733, repeating for eternity. And an A plus in an academic class is a 4.3. Okay? So, weighted above 5, meaning they're taking some very difficult classes, and you can see with the average accepted SAT and ACT. You see the dip there? The dip is there because not as many students were submitting scores, and especially they didn't have the score in order to submit. So you saw a dip there. If you look at the next level of colleges, so to speak, this highly competitive. Boston, a couple of examples, Boston University, University of Connecticut, TCNJ, my old school. Ithaca, you can see a 4.7 GPA, right? It's a little bit less. You can see where the SATs and the ACTs go. And you look at that next level of college. Your Bloomsburgs, your East Carolinas, your St. Bonaventures, Lycoming. I love Lycoming. Anybody ever hear of Lycoming College? Down by Williamsville, really nice school. What's that?
Both my parents went there.
Yeah. And you can see kind of where they are, just about a 4 on that weighted GPA. So I just put that there just as a gauge to kind of get an idea of where you may or may not fall into a college or university. Over the past, I need to update that, apologies. This is the last 3 graduating classes, so this is the class of 2020, 21, 22. These are the top 10 most applied to colleges. This is straight from the college newsletter that I put out in the fall every year. How many people read the college newsletter? All right, more than I expected. I'll take it. But it's online if you want to look at it. But you can see Rutgers, Delaware, Penn State, Pitt, TCU, those are always in there. Ron JV, always in there. South Carolina's kind of crept in over the past couple years. Pitt has really moved up the board. They were hovering around 9 or 10 for us, and now in the top 5. What I want to show you is, right, at Rutgers, 83% of our students are getting accepted. So 83% of the applicants from West Morris are getting accepted into Rutgers. Nationally, 57%. Right, so we're outperforming on average at a lot of these schools, which I think is is a good indicator of the type of students that are coming out of West Point. Top 10 attended? Not much. Although St. Mary were even there tied at number 10 at 11. Just a jumping off point. Doesn't mean you should go to any of these schools. Just something to consider. So when you have your individual conference with your counselors, they are going to go into detail specific to you, the uses of ambiance. I'm just going to give you a broad idea of what ambiance is like. So we use ambiance, first of all, this is our in-house system that we use to send out your transcripts, your letters of recommendation. Everything will come through Naviance. So if that is not a username and password you know tonight, after you meet with your counselor, there's a username and password you need to know from now until we graduate. All right? You're going to spend a lot of time on here performing college searches, actually going through this to submit a request to teachers for letters of recommendation. And again, we'll send all your materials through this. But it's also good, it gives us a lot of data. A lot of the college searches that you can do are similar to what you can find on Princeton, Review.com, Kaplan, College Board, all these sites. They all have college search options where you can put in the different things that you're looking for as a college, university, and it'll spit out a list that matches the criteria that you just put. Naviance will do the same, but then it will give you data based only on the graduates from West Morris. So one of the first things everybody jumps to is this scattergram. What this shows us is at, and I believe the name of the school, I don't have the school up here, but at this college, let's call it TCNJ, the average accepted GPA for the past 10 years has been a 3.5 GPA, and the average SAT is at 1,300. This blue is you. So greens, people who were accepted, reds, people who were denied admission. We do this because we want you to get an idea of which schools might be a reach, might be a target, might be a safety. I'll get into more of that in a little bit. This is not dogma. What is up here is not definitely going to happen to you, right? There are a lot of different things that come into play. Am I an athlete? Is there a specific major I'm going for? There's a lot of different things that can kind of, sway the data here a little bit. This is just to give you an idea of where you fall. So if you, as a blue person, are here in this area, we would call that a reach school. If you're amongst all these greens, we call it safety. And where it's located right now, it's a target school. Any questions? I really like this feature called overlaps. The school up here is Marist. Anybody ever been? Beautiful, right? So it's kind of cold with it. Gotta be right over the river. Really nice setting. Not far from West Point. Anyway, students who applied to Marist, 120 of the students applied to Marist between this time and this time. This will be updated when we look at it online. But 50 of those 120 also applied to the College of New Jersey. 48 also applied to Scranton. 47 applied to Delaware. So these schools have something in common. Size, location, or selectivity in the admissions process are really the top 3 things that you're going to find that these schools have in common. So it may be a good idea just that if I like Marist, I'm trying to find other schools that might be similar, maybe look at this overlap feature and some more schools can kind of pop into your list. Right? This list that you're going to make is not a one and done, folks. It doesn't happen. It does. Rarely does it ever happen. You make one list, you got your 5 schools, and that's it. It's going to expand and contract many, many times between now and November 1st of next year, and that's okay. That's okay, right? But you want to do your due diligence and do your work. Okay, so college visit. Couple of things I'm going to say before I show this video. This is from, I believe, Smith's College. Talks about different things that you can do in your college visit to really get the most out of it. But again, I already mentioned spring athletes. Your spring break is shot. So look at President's Day weekend. Look at some other long weekends that you may be taking before those spring sports start so you can get out there. Why is it important to do that? You want to go when kids are on campus. Okay? Yes, you can go and visit colleges and universities in the summer. And if that's all you got, that's all you got. Go ahead. But it's not going to be the same as if the kids are on campus at college, right? Like, look, you're not going to want to see the University of Georgia in July when you go see it in September next fall, right? On a Saturday football game. You're going to get an entirely different feel. You understand what I'm saying? So you really want to see what the campus is like. And students, this is your job. This is your new class. Congratulations, I just added a class to your schedule. Okay? Yes, you should work the timeline with your parents, the calendar with your parents. Hey, let's go this weekend, this weekend, or this weekend. Okay? But when it comes to the time to actually book it, you get online. You book it. Right? You have to make a call, you pick up the phone, and you call. You can actually talk on these things. Right? It does happen. So, it's really, really important. Remember that demonstrated interest I talked about? Right? They want to see that you're taking charge. Right? This is your search. Parents are going to be with you throughout the way, and many, many parents are going to help you pay for it, and you should kiss them and thank them many, many times for this. Okay? But you guys got to take it. So let me just play this for you, get an idea of what you can expect, what you should look at on a college visit.
College tour process can be very intimidating and overwhelming in a lot of ways, but what I find the most valuable about that process is that you're able to really get in touch with yourself about what you might want from your college experience.
There's so much to do and so much to see. Somebody taking you around this new place, and it's very awesome. But it's very important to stay engaged and listen to what is being said. Sometimes the good thing about the college is not in the beauty or what you see, but what has been kept and you cannot see from the outside.
This is your hour. So talk with the tour guide. Tell them what you're passionate about, what you're interested in studying or doing for an extracurricular. Because then they'll be able to make the tour more fitted towards you specifically.
As an international student, I find it useful to ask questions about where I'm going to be staying and the kind of community I'm going to be joining.
What is it like to live in a Smith house? What are the rooms like? How do I get a roommate? Will I be given a roommate? How do I choose my house? I want people to feel free to connect with me on a personal level about the experiences that I've had at Smith, because I'm so passionate about each and every one of them.
Be specific with the questions that you ask and let them tell you whatever you want to know. If it's about a class, ask about what you're going to do in the class. Can you get attention from your professor? What's the ratio, student to professor ratio? Can you get help when you need it?
Sometimes the tour guide might not know everything about the department that you're interested in, and some families may just walk away after the tour, but what I would suggest is definitely feel free to reach out to anyone in the admission office, and if they don't know the answer, they would be really happy to help you and reach out to the department chair or anyone else in the department of your interest.
Explore the area downtown and see what the vibe is like.
We have 4 other colleges around us, so we're a 5-college consortium, and there's so much to do and to learn, and it's your time to explore.
My advice is to make the tour your own.
I think just beyond what's your life here like, what's dorm life here like, what's social life here like, if you want to get specific and really connect with your tour guide, we're open to it. I'm open to it. I would love that.
In there. If you have a question on the tour that's not answered, go back to the admissions office afterwards and ask the question. Okay? They want to hear from you. They want to know, what's being missed in that tour, right? So they can help future tours. Second, sometimes a tour can really be hit or miss based on the kid that you have leading the tour, right? They do the backwards walking thing, and they're pointing at all the buildings, and some are going to be more personable than others. A little bit of luck of the draw. So don't be afraid after the tour to go to the cafeteria, go to one of the dining halls, get some food, eat. just listen to the bus, right? Listen to the conversations that are happening around. If you're brave enough and you want to ask some questions, they'll be nice to you. They'll answer some questions, okay? And if they're not nice to you, you don't want to go to that college. Other things to consider. We have an alumni fair coming up on December 22nd. It's a Thursday before winter break, where our students that are currently at college are going to come back, set up in the library, and talk about the schools that they are at. So if you've already identified some schools and you want to go and you want to talk to them, do so. But if you're going on a tour, and I've done this many, many times over the years, right? And you want to meet the former Westmore student, many of them, when they graduate, give us their personal emails for this express purpose so that we can shoot them an email and say, hey, I've got so-and-so coming to campus in a couple of weeks. You willing to meet up with them such and such a time, right? 9 times out of 10 they say yes, and 1 out of 10 is because they're not willing to cut classes. So that opportunity is there for you to talk to Westmore students and get an idea of what's happening on campus. It's real important, but get there, take the tours. That's the fun part. It really, really is. Questions? Yes?
Finding out that a lot of the schools don't offer tours during the weekends, which of course a lot of us are available for. So the question is, do the school acknowledge times when you take your kids out of school to see schools?
Yes, and this is being recorded right now, so I better get the answer right. It's 3 or 4 excused absences for college schools. I don't remember what it is, but you do get excused absences. When you go to the admissions office, just ask for the note. I can't remember. Say it's 4. Other questions? And that's an excellent point. That's why I said the long weekend is really important, right? Maybe do it Thursday, Friday, and Monday. Letters of recommendation. All right, folks, listen. Junior year is your last full academic year that colleges will use to evaluate your academic abilities for your college, right? Which means your junior year teachers are the best teachers to ask for letters of recommendation. Which means if you haven't been making nice to letters of recommendation to these teachers, to this point, start tomorrow. Bring an apple, bring flowers, whatever, all right? But start making nice with these people. Now, listen, if you want to be an engineering major, your letters do not have to be both math and science. It doesn't have to. It's probably good to get 1 from math or science. And don't be afraid to get 1 from English or history, right? Show your ability across all areas of academia. Very, very cool. But 2 teachers that you're connecting with, that you're performing well with, that like you. So we're going to get back to the students April, May, and we're going to advise you at that time to ask the teachers for letters of recommendation. Some teachers will use the time over the summer to write the letters. Others will procrastinate and do it in the fall. Their personal choice. But you have to make sure that you get to them, and when they're done, and they've submitted the letter to guidance, you are never going to see the letter. Right? It's confidential. We will not send out a bad letter. I have never seen a bad letter in my 16 years here. Okay? You will thank them with a note, a little gift. It doesn't have to be a card, something else. Okay? Questions? Oh, so I talked about this, touched on this briefly. Number of schools to apply to. You know, a question I always get, and this is not something that I hold with great pride, but I have the public record at Westmore Central for most applications sent by 1 student at 38. I mean, so 38, and I asked this kid, I said, what are you doing? I probably asked him like around 20. I said, what are you doing? He says, I don't know. My parents keep going out, and I keep bringing it in. Oh, no. This is not what we're looking for, right? We're looking for 5 to 7 schools to apply to. If you do your homework, you know which schools you're going to get into, which schools you got a pretty good shot at, which ones are like, hey, we're taking a chance, right? We're taking a chance. So that taking a shot is a reach school. 1, you're really feeling froggy, maybe 2, okay? Target schools, schools that, yeah, I'm pretty solid at, 3 to 5 of them. And then 1, maybe 2 safety schools, okay? Maybe 2. That, hey, if I get into this school, I know I'm going to get into this school, and I'm all right going there, okay? That's your safety school. And the reason you do this is a couple of reasons. Number 1, Think of all the time it takes to really put into the application. Now, I know this contradicts what I said before about the common application, right? Because in the common application, I can fill out one application, hit send, apply for school. But a lot of these schools on the common application have supplements, supplementary writing, short answers. Why do you want to go to this school? Why do you want to do this major? Right? So there's going to be additional questions on top of the essay that you've already done. And you want to make sure that if you're writing a supplementary short answer to the University of Delaware about why you want to go to the University of Delaware, it should not say, I want to go to the College of New Jersey because. Right? And if you do too many of them, you're going to start to get confused. Your parents are about to help you pay for college for 4, 5, 6 years. Right? Do they need to put out another $1,000, $2,000 in application fees? The answer is no. They don't, right? So be thoughtful about the number of schools that you find. They do cost. Attention to detail, I already talked about that. Make yourself stand out. I want to have time to do interviews if they let me do interviews. Okay? Whether it be over the phone, whether it be virtual, whether it be in person. And I need to make sure that I'm really doing my homework on each of these schools so that I can make myself stand out, in whether it be those writings or those interviews. Here's the other thing. Consider your cohort. Colleges will compare you to other students from West Morris that have applied to them. They will never tell you this, but this is true. They are probably limited to the number of students they're willing to take from West Morris. Right? So if we have 15 kids just throwing applications out and getting accepted to school X with no business going, that 16th kid who really wanted to go there, but it's coming up a little short in comparison to those 15, is out of line. Right? So consider that to a degree. Is it a school that I would go to if I get in? If the answer is absolutely, then do it. If the answer is eh, well, why? Why do you go for that? Just something to think about. Talked about financial aid bank. I'm not going to go too much into that. This year's presentation is online if you really want to look at it now. We will host it in September. I hadn't selected the date, but it'll be the first couple weeks of school because everything opens up October 1st for you folks in terms of financial aid. But here are some resources. And again, all of this is going to be posted online for you to look at tomorrow or whenever you like. Okay, so I'm going to show you a video. Anybody know who Malcolm Gladwell is? Malcolm Gladwell. Author, right? Big book, Outliers. If you've never read it, really read it. It's a really good read. And put aside, if you know Malcolm Gladwell, just try, if you have any personal opinions on it, I don't think it's too controversial. It's just academic work. But I'm going to show you a video, and the title of the video is Why You Should Not Go to Harvard. All right? And the walk away from this video tonight is not that Mr. Ferry says I shouldn't go to an Ivy League school. It's not what I'm saying. All right? He's going to talk very specifically and give you some data about why it may not be in your best interest to shoot for that big name school, right? Like a Harvard, Yale, MIT, etc. Where you may be better off, kind of look at this big fish little pond thing, right? Where you may be better off kind of in something a little bit more intimate, something a little bit more suited to your abilities, and why that's going to be to your advantage. So take a look. This is just under 9 minutes. There's a nice break in my voice, and I think some really interesting things here.
Problem in turning out enough science and math graduates, right, in this country. And it's not for lack of interest, by the way, among high school seniors. Lots and lots and lots of high school seniors want to get science and math degrees, but approximately half of them drop out by the end of their second year. So we have a persistence problem in science and math education in this country. So the question is why? Why do so many kids drop out? Well, the obvious answer is that science and math are really hard, and you need to have a certain level of cognitive ability to master those subjects, and we don't have enough smart kids, right? So, if that's true, if science and math education is a function of, we should be able to see in the statistics that persistence is a function of your cognitive ability. I've just chosen Harvard College as a proxy for American colleges for totally random reasons. Hardwick is a small liberal arts college in upstate New York. And what we have here is a distribution of math SAT scores among the people who are intending to major in science and math. And what you can see is that there is quite a wide range of native math ability among the kids entering the freshman STEM programs at Hardwick. Right? So what do we see when we look at who ends up graduating with a STEM degree? What we see is that at Hardwick College, the kids in the top third, with the top third SAT scores, end up getting well over half of the STEM degrees, and the kids with the bottom scores end up getting very few of the STEM degrees. Those kids over there are dropping out like flies. Right? This would seem to suggest that our original hypothesis that persistence is a function of cognitive ability is true. And we can also go further. We can say, if this hypothesis is true, as we go to more and more selective institutions, we should see a very different pattern of persistence. We should see less kids dropping out because the kids are all smarter. Right? So let's go to Harvard. These numbers are a few years old, but at Harvard you can see that the bottom third of math SAT scores among kids doing science and math are equal to the top third at Hardwick. The dumb students at Harvard are as smart as the smart students at Hardwick. So you'd think everybody at Harvard should be getting a math and science degree, right? Why would they drop out? Everyone's so smart. What do we see? Oh dear. What we see is the exact same pattern at Harvard that we saw at Hardwick. The top kids are getting all the degrees. The kids at the bottom aren't getting any degree. They're dropping out like flies, right? Even though these kids are brilliant. Well, clearly what we're seeing here is that persistence in science and math is not simply a function of your cognitive ability. It's a function of your relative standing in your class. It's a function of your class rank, right? Those kids who are really, really brilliant don't get their math degree not because that is a function of their IQ, but as a function of where they are in their class. And by the way, if you look at any college you want, you will always see, regardless of the level of cognitive ability among the students, you will always see the same pattern. The kids who get the science and math degrees are the ones in the top of their class, and the kids in the bottom of their class never do. So the name given to this phenomenon among psychologists is relative deprivation theory. And it describes this exceedingly robust phenomenon, which says that as human beings, we do not form our self-assessments based on our standing in the world. We form our self-assessments based on our standing in our immediate circle, on those in the same boat as ourselves. Right? So a classic example of relative deprivation theory is which countries have the highest suicide rates? Happy countries or unhappy countries? And the answer is happy countries. Right? If you're morbidly depressed in a country where everyone else is really unhappy, you don't feel that unhappy, right? You're not comparing yourself to the universe, the whole universe of people out there. No, you're comparing yourself to your neighbors and the kids at school, and they're unhappy too, so you're sort of fine. But if you're morbidly depressed in a country where everyone is jumping up and down for joy, you are really depressed, right? That is a very, very, very profoundly serious place to be. And so, as a result, you get that sad outcome more often. So what's happening at Harvard, then, is the kid in the bottom third of his class at Harvard does not say, rationally, I am in the 99.99th percentile of all students in the world when it comes to native math ability, even though that's true. What that kid says is, that kid over there, Johnny over there, is getting all the answers right, and I'm not. I feel like I'm really stupid, and I can't handle math, so I'm going to drop out, get a fine arts degree, move to Brooklyn, make $15,000 a year, and break my parents' heart, right? So what is the implication of this? The implication of this is that if you want to get a science and math degree, don't go to Harvard, right? In fact, we could run the numbers on this. Mitchell Chang at UCLA recently did the numbers, and he says, as a rule of thumb, your odds of graduating, persisting, successfully getting a science and math degree fall by 2 percentage points for every 10-point increase in the average SAT score of your peers. So if you're a kid and you have a choice between and University of Maryland is your safety. University of Maryland has 150, on average, SAT scores are 150 points lower at Maryland. That means your chance of graduating with a STEM degree from Maryland is 30% higher than it would be at Harvard, right? Now, so if you choose to go to Harvard and not Maryland, you are taking an enormous gamble. You're essentially saying, this STEM degree, by the way, the most valuable commodity any college graduate can have in today's economy, I am going to take a 30% gamble in my chances of getting that degree, just so I can put Harvard on my resume. Is that worth it? I don't think so. When it comes to confidence and motivation and self-efficacy, the things that really matter when it comes to making your way in the world, relative position matters more than absolute position. The 80th percentile student at Harvard looks at those kids who are smarter than him and says, I can't do it. The #1 student at Missouri says, wow, I am Lord of the Manor. I'm going to go out and conquer the world, right? So what does it mean? Well, what it means, first of all, when it comes to hiring, it means you should hire on the basis of class rank. And you should be completely indifferent to the institution attended by the applicant. In fact, we should have a don't ask, don't tell policy for the name of your undergraduate institution. It's hurting us to know that. It doesn't help us. And when you hear some institution, some fabulous Wall Street investment bank, some university say, we only hire from the top schools, you should say, you moron, hire from the top students from any school under the sun. And it also means that when it comes, if you have kids going to college, when it comes to choosing your undergraduate institution, you should never go to the best institution you get into. Never. Go to your second or your third choice. Go to the place where you're guaranteed to be in the top part of your class. So why don't we do that? Well, why did I come here when it was profoundly in my self-interest not to, right? Because when we have an opportunity to join elite institutions, we are so enormously flattered and pleased with ourselves that we do things that are irrational. We have a problem in turning out enough science and math.
So, maybe best summed up by this quote, the former president of the National Association of College Admissions Council. College is a match to be made, not a prize to be won. We've all seen these cards, right? We've all seen it. Fordham, Yale, UConn. I would never do this, solely because those schools are not paying me to advertise them. This is the same reason why when I go to a dealership, I say, take your label off. And they say, why? I said, you're not paying me to advertise for you. But if we're chasing a name, we're going to miss finding the school that is best for us or our specific needs. Think about this idea where, yeah, maybe I can get into this big name school, but at this big name school, am I really going to be able to make myself stand out? Am I going to be able to rise up to a leadership position, really give myself some standing at that college or university so that when I do go on to my job interviews, I have something worthwhile to talk about, represent. I don't know, we could debate that for hours. So I just wanted to put that thought in your mind, take it for what it's worth. Everyone's going to have their own opinions and stances on it, that's fine. But I think really we got to remember, what's best for me, what's best for my student. I thought about doing this exercise, and I'll go back to the moment when you found out that you were going to have a baby, whether you're going to adopt, whether you were going to foster, whether you're actually having it biologically. And people say, oh, you want a boy or a girl? What was your response? Shout it out. Don't care. Why? Healthy. Just want to be healthy, right? And now, so all we cared about then was just our kid to be healthy. Now, think about the first day you're walking that kid to kindergarten, to the bus, you're fighting back the tears. I know I will. Fighting back the tears, you put them on the bus. What were you hoping for? Shout it out. Happy. Man, I hope my kid is happy. I hope they go, they make some friends. They come back and have a smile on their face. I hope it's a good day for them. right? Think about the first time you signed up for soccer, gymnastics, football, or anything like that. Did you say to myself, this is it? NFL, here we come? No. You thought, man, I hope they don't get hurt. And I hope he's happy, she's happy, they have fun. Now, if I ask you that question in college, shouldn't the answer be, I hope they're happy, they're healthy, and they get a good experience? You know, if we're doing that, then we're doing our work. So I just want to leave you with that. One last thing. These are some books, if you're interested in reading. Enlightened College Applicant is a real quick read. And for me to say that, it's definitely quick, right? Because I'm a slow reader. Just got kind of some ins and outs about the application process. Talks about sticker price versus actual paid price. Really, really good read. Wrap it up, put it under the tree for Christmas if you celebrate. Why not? Where you go is not who you'll be. Talks more about that idea of stop chasing the name. College Admissions Workbook to really do some hands-on activities if you're looking for that. And this book all the way to the right came out 2019, 2020. Who gets in and why? A year inside college admissions. Mrs. Grasso, one of our counselors here, is actually going to have a book club with this book. She's going to send out an email late February, early March, I think she said. So if you're interested in joining that, be on the lookout. We'll talk about that in more detail. All right, so if there's nothing else, are there any questions? Thank you for coming today.